Hello again, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you for checking out this video. In today's video, I'm going to do my best to download everything I can about habits. How they're created, how can they be changed. First, though, I need to deliver a disclaimer. The advice I'm going to give in this video is not easy to follow. There are no 3 effortless steps to behavior change. As we'll discuss, a lot of these habits are tied directly to emotions and patterns of thought that potentially could have some really painful experiences connected to them. It also requires developing self-discipline and the willingness to take on a lot of responsibility. Both of those things are habits in and of themselves. I want you to be as successful as possible, and I would be wasting your time if I didn't deliver the hard truths and the tough love. That being said, let's talk about our full potential. What I'm about to deliver is the Cliff Notes version of all the things I read and understood out of this book right here, The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. This is a pretty new book from 2009, talking about a lot of the science of habit and giving some really good examples of places he went to learn about how to build the best habits and the best skills. Well, what is a habit in the first place? A habit is any automatic and recurring pattern of emotions, thoughts, or behaviors. These patterns quickly become unconscious and then are mediated by the deep centers of the brain. Almost anything can become habituated, and almost any external or internal stimulus can activate these patterns. So why would the brain build habits in the first place? Well, the brain is the number 1 calorie consumer in the entire body because it is constantly on. It's always reacting, processing, and calculating. The body is designed for efficiency, so the more programs we can run in the background, the better. As more of these behaviors become automatic, more energy and more processing power is left to creatively solve new and unique problems that come up. Think about how tiring it would be to constantly consider every single action of every single day. Building an unconscious habit is much easier than coordinating every pen stroke of every word that you write. Habituating responses to social cues is much more efficient than deciding what each word and each facial expression means. At work, people often comment about how they were so tired and hungover that they don't remember the drive in. This is habit in action. The brain gets this way through a biological process called myelination. As circuits are fired, the cells in the brain respond by wrapping each neuron in a fatty layer called myelin. The more these circuits are fired, the more myelin each one gets. The myelin allows the signals through these neurons to travel faster and coordinates circuits where neurons fire simultaneously or in a specific sequence. It takes time for this process to happen, months, sometimes even years. Think about how much myelination must have occurred to take a wobbly 5-year-old on their first bike to be a finalist at the X Games. Once I understood what this process was, I realized that I couldn't go from dud to stud in just a week. It takes a lot of conscious practice to develop these skills. Once it's there, myelin never goes away. That's why it's so hard to build new habits. In order to develop new behaviors, new circuits have to be laid down in such a way that they override old programs or are fired off before old circuits have a chance to be used. So I have 2 categories of habits: habits of avoidance and habits of confrontation. It's a working title. Habits of avoidance are the bad habits. These are the behaviors that are typically used to cope with stress and to avoid responsibilities. Typically, they're triggered at the emotional and thought level of the brain and are the most unconscious habits we engage in. Not only is it easier to do these things than it would be to clean, pay bills, work on new hobbies, etc., they typically allow the brain to slip by without acknowledging the painful memories or feelings that triggered them in the first place. For me, some of my favorite avoidance habits were social media and pornography use, depression naps, which I'm going to do an entire video on sometime, and smoking pot. These behaviors are low dopamine and low serotonin, the good brain chemicals. Typically, the person will get a quick rush from this, and shortly thereafter, they will need to engage in this behavior again. Through this repetition, these circuits are heavily myelinated. Habits of confrontation, then, are the good habits. These are behaviors that a person will engage in to reduce the source of the stress and move themselves towards a goal. Because these behaviors are typically actions that a person will take, they engage the newer parts of the human brain like the frontal cortex. For me, using the calendar app on my phone, the 3-2-1 rule, which I'm also going to do a video on at another time, and meditation are some of my favorite replacement activities. Because these behaviors move you towards goals and accomplishments, they produce high levels of dopamine and serotonin naturally, which is great for the health and longevity of the brain. These are the habits that allow for those creative solutions that we talked about earlier. This means that building habits of confrontation is a two-part process: stopping the old habits and behaviors and building new actions. Those old myelinated pathways will never go away, so it's very important to recognize these old behaviors and interrupt them, and preferably to stop them before they start. Step 1, forgiveness. It is impossible to get this right on the first try, on the 10th try, even on the 100th try. This process goes against millions of years of evolution, and in my opinion, it's a miracle that it can be done in the first place. Recognize a failure, forgive the failure, let the failure go, and be willing to do better next time. Step number 2, meditation. In order to stop a habit of avoidance, it is crucial to recognize the emotion or the thought that triggered it in the first place. Start small. 60 seconds a day is infinitely longer than 0 seconds. And once I got involved in this, it felt so good, it quickly snowballed into more time and more practice. Again, be willing to forgive missing several days of this in a row. And then be willing to do better next time. Step 3 is asking questions. Once I was able to identify some of the negative thoughts and feelings that I had through my practice of meditation, I needed to know why they were there and where they came from. Asking these questions often led to a very painful answer. Slights from the past, traumas that I experienced, all directly lead to habits and behaviors that a person carries with them through their entire life. Addressing these things from the past sets the stage for moving past them into the future. Where did these come from? Why did I learn them in the first place? And my personal favorite, what could I do today if I really wanted that would make my life better? Those are some of my favorite questions to ask myself. Step 4 is start by doing less than what you think you can. There's an old adage that goes, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and it could not be more true. Setting grandiose goals right from the start is a recipe for disaster and prevents a lot of people from learning to develop these good habits, these good behaviors, and good skills. Going to the gym 5 days a week may not be possible when someone gets started. Perhaps it's a better idea to drive to the gym and sit in the parking lot for a few minutes. Meal prepping for an entire week can be a daunting task. Perhaps cutting up a green pepper and putting it in the fridge for a snack is a much better way to start the habit of healthy eating. Quitting cold turkey isn't an option for some people, but starting to learn how to resist that first urge or temptation can go a long way to success in the future. All of these things are going to be unique to each individual, and it's up to you to find the path that works best. These are some of the things that I've been practicing in my own life, and they've delivered great dividends, and so I need to share them. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. See you soon.